Okay, so here's a little breakdown of the CAGED system. The CAGED system is a way to memorize chord shapes all up your entire neck, and that's handy for playing chords up all the neck as well as memorizing scale shapes later on. So you can see the word CAGED, each letter stands for chord shape, C-A-G-E-D. So that first shape you can see is pretty much just a C chord. It looks a little strange showing the open strings, but here's a C chord, of course, open position C. This may sound a little redundant, but yes, that's a C chord, and the shape is also a C. One way to demonstrate that is if I capo up and play here, that's no longer a C chord, but my mind still thinks of that as a C chord. I would just think capo 3, C chord, G, D, whatever, right? So the shape can be a little different than the chord. That'll make more sense in a minute, I think. So here's my first chord shape, a C shape. So I'm calling that a C-shaped C chord. From that same root note from that 5th string third, I can also play another C chord that's more or less a bar chord. That's this one. I almost never do this because that's hard. I usually just do this and I get rid of the first string. So these are both C chords. But this isn't a C shape. I would call that an A shape, and I'll show you why. If we capo there, now it's an A shape. So I'm calling this an A-shaped C chord. So you can see on the paper here I've got the C-shaped C, the A-shaped C. And here on this diagram I did show this note. That's the note I usually get rid of. I usually just play these four. But when we're playing these shapes up the neck, even though I find this difficult, sometimes I'll do this. Just play the high 4 notes of it. So here's a C, C-shaped C, A-shaped C, or... And this is the way we're going to connect all these chord shapes up the neck, right? My next shape would be what I would call the G shape, where I had those 3 fingers. I'm going to bar and put my pinky on the 8th fret. And again, this is really ridiculous, but you could do a G chord like this. I certainly would like my first finger to be a capo, and then it would just be this. But so that's a G shape. As a rule, what I do is I just play the top 4 strings. So far we have this. We have C-shaped C, A-shaped C, G-shaped C. And those are all C chords. I'm going to stop right there and I'll talk about the other 2 shapes. Real quick, that's cool. So if someone is playing a chord pattern underneath me, something like that, and I want to improvise, I can instantly jump up here and I know that's going to fit because that's also a C chord. There's no use having 2 or 3 guitar players all playing in the same area. So as the lead melody player, it's nice to know some chord shape options up the neck. So once again, open C-shaped C, A-shaped C, G-shaped C. And you'll notice too, like there's always what I call hinge points. The first finger was where I changed from the A to the G, and now this pinky is where you're going to have a bar. I'm sure you know this chord. That's a standard bar chord, starting from the root note on the 6th string. And of course that's the 8th fret, so it's a C. But again, what shape is that? Well, that's an E chord right there. If I capo there, it's just an E chord, right? So I would call this my E-shaped C. But again, I generally like to play just the top 4 strings. So it almost looks more like an F chord, but it's part of the E shape. Last but not least, we have a little D chord shape hanging out all by itself in this key because it's a C chord. It's going to be the 12th fret. It does kind of take a root from here, getting ridiculously high here, but if I capoed the 10th fret, which I don't recommend. It's just a D chord. Here comes the sun, huh? So check this out. I hope this makes sense. So we have the C-shaped C, the A-shaped C, the G-shaped C, the E-shaped C, and the D-shaped C. And this one pretty much overlaps right to the C shape again. But now we don't have open strings, so it's a little ridiculous. But what you can do is you can practice that, how to stack your notes up the neck. Because again, if someone's playing something like this underneath me, if I wanted to, I could go right to this shape. And I'm teasing you there a little bit. That's those thirds. I'll do that in another video. You can kind of see that those are going to connect to these chords. It's a pretty cool thing. So as a lead player, I can totally do choices of all these different C chords up the neck. I'll do more videos, but that's a good start.